Let's do this very important topic today, which is about bonds. Bonds is important from the point of view of numericals, which come in FM paper, as well as to understand general economic principles. We'll divide this series into three videos. The first one would be introduction to bonds. So we would look at various definition. What are bonds? Why are bonds? What are the various terminologies which are used in the bonds? In the second video, we would look into the valuation of bond, how they are valued, how they are priced in a secondary market. And in the third video, we would understand the relationship of a bond and economic health of a country. So let's begin this chapter or this video, and let's see what are bonds. So the agenda would be what are income instruments, what is a bond, key features and terms, and capital market and money market income instruments. So we would cover these four topics in this. So a fixed income instrument or a fixed income security is generally one which pays a fixed interest rate after a certain period of time. So it could be your FD, it could be your bond, it could be your debt, it could be your treasury bill. So all these are fixed instrument securities. So generally speaking, a company or a government or other type of organization can raise funds for various purposes in three ways. They can either raise it in the form of equity, which generally companies do, right? A government would not raise equity. They would raise what is known as T bills or T bonds, right? So they would raise in that way. Equity is generally raised by companies for various purposes. So, for example, a company wants to grow, and HUL, for example, wants to open another factory, and they don't have assets. What they would do is they would float their IPO, or they would float their shares in the secondary market, which people can buy, and they would get money which they can invest in building that factory. And the guys who buy equity would become part owner of that company, right? So they would become part owner of HUL, and since they are owner, they would earn in the form of dividends as well as capital gain. And secondly, the government could or the companies could also raise debt. Debt can be generally in the form of loans, which they can take from the bank or from secondary market. For example, hundis or these money lenders also provide a loan at a fixed interest. Or it could be bonds, debentures, treasury bills, treasury bonds, and all that stuff, right? So these are the two ways of raising debt. So how would a company decide whether to raise equity or whether to raise debt? So there is a concept called cost of capital, right? So it's a concept which is not in the scope of syllabus of RBI grade B, but then that concept is used to understand that what should be raised, whether equity should be raised. If equity is cheap, right? If equity is the cost of capital, which means cost of acquiring equity is cheap, then equity is raised. If cost of acquiring a bond is cheap, then bond is raised. Generally, loan comes as the last option because loan is very costly. A bank loan is given by bank, so bank has a lot of terms and conditions. A bank is a body which is very well established, so it has a lot of terms and conditions which many people cannot fulfill. So a loan is the last option. So the last line says depends on the cost of capital and ease of availability. So ease of availability is another factor. So example of raising money, again, I have taken an example. For example, a company has 20 crores in the form of equity. They have issued equity shares at 200 and hence issued 10 lakh shares. Now they want to raise additional funds of 5 crores. They can either do by issuing stocks in the primary market at a market price or bonds at a fixed rate. In case they issue stocks, it will be part of equity pool and the stock owners become the owner of the company. In case of bonds, they are taking liability. So bond is a liability. They have to pay it back. It's a debt. In the books of the company, it would be shown in as debt. So if you look at a balance sheet, which we would cover as a separate topic, you would see that whatever the debt is raised, it is in the liability section, and assets minus that liability becomes equal to equity. We'll see that once we cover the balance sheet. So this liability they have to pay back in the form of interest and refund of principal capital payment. Right? So that's the way a company or a government would raise money for various purposes. So what is a bond? Let's understand what is a bond. So you have loaned your neighbor rupees 1,000 so that he can renovate his home. He promises to pay 6% interest each year for the next 5 years, and he will give you your money, you back your money. So this is very simple way of bonds, right? So in place of your neighbor, let's have a government. In place of rupees 1,000, let's have some crores of rupees, and rest remains the same, right? So a government wants to, for example, construct roads, and they don't have money, and they don't actually have control over their spending, so they would raise money. Essentially RBI would actually help, because RBI is a bank of the government, so through RBI they would raise those crores of money in form of, if they require for a shorter term, they would raise it in the money market in the form of T bills. If they want it for the longer terms, they would raise it in the form of T bonds, right? So that's how a government would raise the bonds. Similarly, a company could also raise the bond. A bond works in the same way. Your company, you give a company rupees 1,000 and they pay you a fixed rate of interest. So understand that there is a fixed rate of interest for specific period. So there is a specific period after which they return you the principal. Government, federal, provisional, and municipal. So there are municipal bonds as well. And corporations use bonds to raise capital, which they need for expansion. So key features of bond. Let's look at key features of bond. A bond is a fixed income instrument. We have seen that before, and it's a debt instrument. So fixed income instrument is generally is also called a debt instrument. Let's also now understand key terms. A bond is issued at a face value or a par value. So a par value or a face value is the price which is paid at the maturity, right? So in our previous example, it was rupees 1,000. So whatever the final principal a company would repay after the expiry of the bond, that's called the par value of the bond. In the previous example, rupees 1,000 was the par value, also known as face value. All the interests are calculated at par value. So all the interests for any purpose are calculated on par value. Coupon rate and frequency. Remember we quoted a rate of interest in this slide, this one, 6%. So 6% is the coupon rate. So coupon rate is nothing but the static coupon rate states the rate of interest the bond will pay the holder after a certain period of time. So for after a certain period of time, usually it could be a year, but then there can be bonds which pay you a certain sum of money after let's say a month or a week or semi-annually or quarterly, right? But note that the coupon rate is always quoted per annum, right? So if it pays you semi-annually, it would be written that coupon rate is 6% per annum paid semi-annually. To find the coupon currency value, simply multiply the coupon rates by the par value. So in the previous example, our par value was 1,000 and 6% was the coupon rate. So if you multiply that, we understand that we would get a cash flow of rupees 60. Right? In the previous example, the coupon rate is 6%. So how are these coupon rates decided generally? So these coupon rates are generally decided on various factors. One of the important factors is credit worthiness of the company or the government or the institution which is raising the fund. If it is credit worthy, then it would raise it at a lower coupon rate because people would buy the bonds as the money is safe with them. So the higher the coupon rate, the riskier is your investment, right? So if there are two companies, let's say A and B, and they come up with a bond in the market at the same time for the same maturity, one at 6% and other at 8%. So people would perceive that the bond with 8% return or 8% coupon rate is slightly riskier, right? So maybe the credit rating is not so great, or there are other factors which are affecting the coupon rate. Similarly, there is credit rating of countries as well, credit rating of economies as well. So if you see the newspapers, you would see that India is rated as double B plus or double B. America is rated at triple A and all that stuff. So which means that how how secure is the loans or the money with the governments, right? So governments also raise the money through bonds. So how secure is that money with governments? So US government money with US government is considered to be the most safest in today's scenario. So we have talked about fixed coupon till now, right? So in the previous example, it says that a bond pays 6% coupon rate, right? So there could be two scenarios here. One, there is a plain vanilla or a convertible bond. So convertible bond, we would discuss more about it when we discuss about redemption of bonds, right? So so generally a plain vanilla bond or convertible bond has a fixed coupon rate fixed by the issuer depending on his credit worthiness. Then there is a floating rate notes, which is also known as FRNs. They have a coupon rate which is pegged to a reference index. So reference index is generally calculated for an economy. For India, it's MIBOR, Mumbai index, right? And for generally Europe, it's LIBOR, London index, right? So the coupon rate can be of FRN will be MIBOR plus minus a spread, right? So it is stated that a bond pays MIBOR plus minus 150 basis point, right? So 150, which means that if MIBOR increases or decreases, your coupon rate would also increase or decrease. So there is no fixed coupon rate, and it depends on the health of the economy, right? MIBOR is an indicator of health of an economy and general sentiment of the market as well. So if so it's not essentially a fixed coupon rate, it's variable coupon rate. So we have used the term basis point. So what is basis point? Generally 1% is defined as 100 basis point. So because the fluctuation is in the basis point, and it could be 20 basis point, 10 basis point, and even a fluctuation of 20 basis point or 10 basis point can actually change the cash flows to a very large extent. That's why we talk in basis point and not in percentages, to make things easier or to comprehend things easier. So payment of interest. A bond, whether they are FRN or fixed coupon rates, pay interest periodically. We have seen that these bonds are often issued at par in the primary market and traded at as per the market sentiments, right? So traded as per the market sentiment means that for the market rate may go up, market interest rate may go up or down, and hence the price of the bond in the secondary market might also go up and down. We will discuss more about it in coming videos. Then there is a special kind of bond which is zero coupon bonds, right? So as it states, the zero coupon bond pays zero interest periodically. Generally, they are issued at a deep discount and are redeemed at par after a given period of time. So, for example, a company X issues a zero coupon bond whose face value is 100 at rupees 800 for 5 years. In this case, the interest rate the interest rate earned after 5 years is rupees 200. So it's just like an FD, right? So you invest rupees 800 at an interest rate for 5 years to get rupees 1000. So the numerical could be that how much interest rate are you earning? 800 is invested for and you are getting an amount of 1000 for 5 years. So what is the interest rate? So it's simple. 1000 is the amount, 800 is the principal. So 1000 divided by 800 is equal to 1 plus r raised to power 5, right? So you can actually use trial and error to find that r. So 1 plus r raised to power 5. In our exam, we can use options to find r. So this is the kind of numerical which can come from zero coupon bond. So it's very easy, right? So if you know the basic terminologies and basic understanding of various concepts of bond, the numericals are not very tough. Also that we have done the time value for money, it would be very easy for you. So what is maturity period? That's the time for which bond is issued. In our previous example, it was 6 years. So now we have come to the last topic, which is capital market fixed securities and money market fixed securities. I have given you a hint. So money market fixed securities are the fixed instruments like T-bills, which are generally issued for less than a year, right? So they are called money market because they are very liquid, right? Less than 1 year, they are considered almost liquid. So that's why they are called money market instruments. Generally, big corporates, banks, and governments deal with money market instruments. So maturity period is less than 1 year. T-bills, commercial deposits, etc. Capital market maturity period is more than 1 year. Generally, they are bonds, FTs, or all these kind of things are in capital market securities. So in this way, we cover the basic definition of what are bonds, what are various terminologies used in bonds, what are the various types of bonds, etc. In the next video, we would look at how do we value a bond, what are the various aspects of valuing the bond. So thanks for watching this video, and I wish you all the best for your preparations.